Hey, so I've got the blinds closed because there's some scaffolding going on outside. And which means if I want to actually get some sunlight, I have to go out. Boo! It's all right. It's all right. It's not the worst thing in the world. You know what is the worst thing in the world? This fucking war. Every day it just seems to be getting worse and worse. There are so many lies being told. Apparently, Russia has a biolab where they're generating biological weapons in Siberia somewhere, right? And I believe that. I believe that, Russia could have, bioweapons and whatever, biolabs or what have you. I believe that they could definitely have biolabs. But if you think for 1 second, for 1 fucking second, that I'm gonna, but given everything that I've experienced, given everything that I've researched, if you expect me to buy for 1 fucking second that Russia is the only nation on the planet with biolaboratories utilized for arsenal, I want to know what the fuck you're smoking, okay? For me to even possibly believe that Russia are the only one with biolabs, there is no fucking way in hell. No way in hell. Why would you have advanced military and not have a whole range of arsenals, not have a whole range of weaponry at your disposal? Why would you be some of the biggest defense systems in the world? Remember how much money munitions actually make. Munitions actually make a lot of money. A lot of the medical breakthroughs that we have, military funding. So they're making bank. There is no way that Russia is the only one using biolabs out here. Are you kidding me? Listen, I've said before and I'll say it again, I do not like Putin. I don't like him, never liked him. I don't trust anybody from the Eastern Bloc because they love to run their mouth too much and talk about how much I hate black people. I'm not a fan of them, but this is not, both sides. There are lies being told on both sides about the Ukraine and about Russia. There are certain things that people are saying that I'm just not buying. And when it comes to Putin being represented as this big bad wolf, anybody who is a TI knows the truth. Our governments are attacking their own people. This is not about Putin attacking the Ukraine like it is about our leaders attacking us. With all this shit going down with the sanctions, with all businesses across different nations having nothing to do with Russia, who do you think suffers the most? It's not going to be Putin. It's not going to be Putin, and it's not going to be those in power. It's going to be the Russian people. Well, to an extent, because, Russia still has a healthy amount of oil down there. And from what I've heard, Russia are the ones with the petrol. So if the UK, even 70% of UK fuel apparently comes from Russia. I don't know how true that is. But apparently 70% of UK fuel comes from Russia. So if Boris even thinks about starting smoke with Russia like that, all the Russian government have to do is just turn them taps off and call it a day. And we're looking at, boom, rising fuel prices, increased poverty, increased famine. So I don't know how true that is. I'd have to look it up a bit further, but that's what I've heard. I heard that 70% of the fuel that we get comes from Russia. And if we want to sanction Russia, if everybody wants to sanction Russia, all Russia's got to do is turn them taps off and they can keep that fuel for themselves. So considering the amount of resources that they've got, the only weakness that I can see that from what I've learned, the only weakness I can see with Russia is their borders, because their borders are really cold. And it's not like they can't make imports and exports, so that if their borders are cold, it's just not optimal for import exportation for obvious reasons. But, they're not as much in the poorhouse as people think. you know, but at the same time, it's to make out like Russia's this big bad boogeyman. Like, nah, I'm not buying it. And you know, there are victims of Havana syndrome like me and people in the US. In fact, the people in the US, they're already blaming Russia. They're already blaming Russia. Do you remember during the, I think it was the Bay of Pigs scandal, it had something to do with that. Russians were accused of placing missiles in Cuba, which is why the electronic weaponry injuries that are sustained is called Havana syndrome, because low-key, America for the longest time have been firing electronic weapons on American citizens, and now they're like using propaganda in order to blame the Russians for it. So this has been in place for decades now. This is not something new. Okay? So that's why, like, whenever I hear about Russia, like, there are certain things that I think could be true, like Putin hiding out in Siberia or Putin hiding out and, you know, away from the consequences of what he's done. But then there are other things that make me think, you know what, I know Putin's I'm not going to use that word. I know what Putin is, but something is telling me that he is not... He's not the main villain here. He's just playing a role. He's a puppet. That's what he is. He's a well-trained, efficient, smart puppet, but he's still a puppet. There is a whole different thing going on. Like it's very, very complex, and it's not a simple thing that we're talking about here. This is war. And ultimately, it's also about population control and the retainment of resources. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of people already are dying. And it's not going to stop with the Ukraine. Even if Russia and the Ukraine were to have peace talks tomorrow and everybody would have just squashed beef, sooner or later, a World War III is coming. This started with Syria. World War III is coming, whether we want it to or not. And we sleptwalk into it because there were clues all along as to what direction our world was about to go in. But nobody wanted to listen. Nobody wanted to hear anything. Everybody just wanted to fucking work, pay their bills, go home. And what? Research into what's going on in the world? No one's going to do that. Even people in my position, people on benefits, I spend most of my time doing my research, paying attention to my passions, investing, like I'm actually doing shit. Most people who are like me, who are on benefits, they're not doing that shit. They're not educating themselves. So, you know, of course we're going to sleepwalk into World War fucking 3. What other option is there? But this whole, you know, conspiracy, you know, this whole thing with Putin, like Putin being painted as the big bad boogeyman when war is way more complex and way more ruthless than that. It's just pissing me off. Like, people want a villain so fucking bad. It's honestly pathetic, and there are lives in the balance. There are lives in the balance in the midst of all this shit. It's way too complex, and there are way too many lies involved to fucking reduce it to a Hollywood narrative. Putin is not a good guy or a bad guy. He's a piece of shit like any other politician. You know, I keep getting these fucking, you know, reports and newsfeed on my fucking laptop talking about, now you're talking about Putin having a bioweapon lab. You had years to report on that. Why wait until now to report on that shit? Listen, if this dude had a biolab, why would you wait until now to say something? Now, when people have already died. Why would you wait until now? Haven't Russia been a threat to you since they stopped being a communist country? So why would you only mention it now? You mean to tell me Russia had biolabs and the UN had absolutely no idea? NATO had absolutely no idea. They fucking know everything. Don't give me that. So you are just allowed this country to have a biolab. You're going around to Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan. You're going around bombing up the place in them countries. Well, not Sudan. The Sudan situation I don't know much about. But you're going to Iraq and Afghanistan, bombing shit up over there, over terrorism in Afghanistan and weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And yet this guy in Russia was sitting there with a whole biolab. And you don't do shit? You don't say shit? You don't send any armies over there? I'm not buying it. I am not buying it. That's ridiculous. That just shows to me that he is not the only country with biolabs. And he cannot be. There've got to be biolabs in this country too. In this country, in the US. I don't know about the Ukraine. Probably the Ukraine too. There's got to be biolabs in almost every country, or at least in some powerful countries. There is no way Russia is the only one with biolabs. I refuse. Fucking refuse, mate. Next thing you know, people have been asking, oh, what happened to COVID? I thought we were handling COVID. I thought we were curing COVID. Like, that's gone all of a sudden? I don't know if you've seen the memes online, but everybody's saying, where the fuck did COVID go? I bet you any money, if they found biolabs in Siberia belonging to Russia, then they're going to try to find some way to work in that Russia's responsible for fucking COVID as well. Watch. I bet you any money that's what they're gonna fucking do. Yeah, this video is gonna get struck, but I don't care, man. People need to get their head out of their fucking ass. Sick of this. And Havana syndrome. The Havana syndrome thing. I think the US are just daring and just stupid enough to try to pull off that the Russians were responsible for targeting citizens in the US. But I don't know if the UK is going to be that stupid. I have my doubts. Especially seeing as Russia was an ally in World War II. Yeah. I don't see Britain being that stupid. I think Britain might allude to something somewhere down the line. I mean, one person with the Havana syndrome in Britain has already been acknowledged, but that's just like one person. That's one person out of how many TIs? So I don't see Russia being blamed for anything just yet. I think the UK are too cool with Russia. But if it is true that Russia has 70% of the fuel and Russia turned them taps off, if Russia turned them taps off, boy, if that is in any way true and Russia turned them taps off, it's game over. When it comes to electric, it's not even about petrol. Most of the electrical power stations, they run on diesel. Now there is a chance that recyclable diesel can be made. But if if Russia turned them taps off, we're fucked. We're fucked. We're surviving on like the 70% of the fuel apparently belongs to Russia. So if they turn them taps off, it's game over. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that given the amount of sanctions and the amount of bans that sports have done, that given the amount of sanctions that Russia have actually been through, I'm surprised I haven't turned the taps off to the UK already. I'm really, really shocked. But then the sanctions is not really headed by the UK, it's headed by the US, so I don't know. But yeah, the fucking Putin having biolabs. You're telling me he's the only one on the face of the planet who's got biolabs? Fuck off with that. Just fuck off. This whole thing is starting to piss me off. And it's like, And people are playing along with it. The thing about lies is that they can be comforting, especially if the whole world is going along with it. A lie can be really, really comforting to people. And especially in times of fear where you're reduced to the level of a child and you need to simplify things and to have things be of comfort to you in order for you to kind of process everything. But when that impulse literally costs more lives than it saves, I mean, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a whole population, a whole global population who know something isn't right, but they're willing to be manipulated and they're willing to be lied to, because the alternative to them, where they have to have more agency, where they have to be more active in their destiny, and they have to be more active in making the world a better place, it doesn't bear thinking about for them. So they'd rather just take comfort in the lie that the Ukraine are the good guys and like Russia are these big bad villains. But the truth is, there are no villains or heroes. This is fucking war. Do you know what kind of fucking psychopath you have to be to even declare war in the first place? To even, you know, to draft people to go to war in the first place, what kind of person do you have to be? Not a hero. I can tell you that right now, for nothing. And as for this fairy tale, I don't see it having a happy ending at all. I think the economic downturn, COVID-19, everything that we've gone through, I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg. Especially if mainstream media is going to continue to lie like this. Especially if we've got right-wing wingnuts fucking talking about the left agenda and how Russia's the good guy. And I'm like, this is going to get very ugly. This is going to get very, very ugly. But anyway, I gotta go. That's my rant over. I've got the rest of my readings to do today. And then I'm gonna fucking just turn my mind off to this shit, because I can't think about it. I can't constantly think about it. Anyway, take care. Bye.